Hello, welcome to the Nerdy Folks Podcast, a conversation about the nerdy things we love and the things that matter most. My name is Matthew Seipel Anderson. I'm the host of the show and chaplain to the nerd community. Today I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Katie Seipel Anderson.
Hello, everybody. We're excited to be back and talking about our final thoughts on Rings of Power Season 2 since we watched the finale.
And since plenty of time has passed since the finale, this will not be a spoiler-free episode. It will be a spoiler-full episode, and we're going to have a lot of fun breaking down Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 2.
Right, so if you have not yet seen the season finale and you're planning on seeing it, you might want to watch that first before you listen to the show.
I thought of something that would be an interesting thought experiment for us.
Oh boy.
It's a thought experiment called Who Would Do Your Job? You have to think about your current job or maybe a job you've had in the past and tell us a little about that job and then what Lord of the Rings or Rings of Power or Hobbit character would do your job and why.
My job just isn't that exciting. It's hard to... I like it, but...
Okay, well, who in Middle-earth would do a not very exciting but kind of important job?
I kind of think Elrond, because I'm in government, and Elrond was in government.
Right on. He was herald to King Gil-galad.
Right, so I'm not a herald to the king, but I don't know. It's about as close as I can get.
So I've actually had lots of jobs over my life.
Who do your current job?
Okay, so my current role, I work at an elementary school.
And you're writing a book.
And I'm doing some writing. Maybe the stranger. The stranger doesn't really know his identity. And I do lots of different things at the school. I kind of wear lots of different hats.
You are kind of like a wizard.
Yeah, I sub in for different teachers.
Grow a killer beard.
Oh, man. Yeah, the stranger. AKA
That's just what it is.
Grand Elf.
You know what? That's a discussion for later on in the episode.
Now, I thought of a job that I've done that a dwarf would do. I did this job for one day.
So you loved it then.
There was an individual at our church who owned a brick factory. And they just had a big order, and so they just needed hands. And I was like 18 or 19 years old. And so they're like, will you come in and work? We'll pay you $20 an hour. And that was like amazing at that time.
Well, yeah.
So I went in and I just literally hauled bricks off an assembly line and stacked them on pallets until my arms were felt like they were going to fall off.
And you didn't go back.
I worked with some rough, tough, very crude dudes. And yeah, dwarves to the core, man.
Well, as a paralegal, I feel like that one is also kind of Elrond. Because I was also a paralegal for quite a while. So that seems to fit Elrond. So I'd say that's probably the best fit.
Well, there you go. Elrond and Durin right here. Yeah! All right, let's get into talking about the show and specifically the finale. Hey, I checked on Rotten Tomatoes and Rings of Power had an 83% Tomatometer rating and a 49% popcorn meter.
Really? That's kind of low for the popcorn meter, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what? It just tells me that fans are divided. I think there's probably a division between people who just were able to get over the hurdle that it wasn't totally true to the original material and they just liked it versus people who are like, nope, they changed too much and it's not the same thing anymore. And
you know what? There is always truth to, especially if you've read the books. Any movie, after you've read the books, it's a little hard to take sometimes because they inevitably change it some or the characters don't look how you imagined them to look.
So I thought it would be fun to continue on with the Rotten Tomatoes theme as we discuss this episode and talk about a few things, first off, that we think were a bit rotten with the show, although we did like the show overall. Definitely, I really enjoyed Season 2.
Yeah, Season 1 was a little too slow, so I guess I'm kind of hard to please, because I felt like I really liked season 2's pace in general until the finale. And then at the finale, it went way too fast. They really should have had 2 episodes for it. They tried to cram too much in. There was so much of the episode that was dedicated to like the battle, which makes sense because that's a huge part of it. And it's a huge part of how Sauron gets his army. And that's really important. But then they were trying to kind of wrap up or set up so many other storylines as well. I mean, the things going on with the dwarves was a big deal, and that could have been a whole episode in of itself. And then things going on with the stranger, and then with the men too. And I don't know, it just seems like, and then the evil wizard was a part of it, and it seemed like they just had too much for one normal length episode.
I agree, especially when it comes to the storyline in Numenor and the storyline with the stranger. I thought the whole thing with the showdown with the Dark Wizard was super rushed and really awkward. And similarly, the political maneuvering, which has been really cool up to this point, they just kind of ramrodded it in.
Yeah, really almost all of those storylines could have used a whole episode itself just to set up for the next season, which hopefully they do a next season.
Oh.
Has something changed?
It has been officially greenlit.
That's exciting.
Another thing I thought was a little rotten in this show was the romance.
Well, there really wasn't.
Well,
I guess there was. There was a little bit.
Sparks flew between Muriel and Elendil, and Isildur has a budding relationship with Estrid, who's the wild woman. Interesting that father and son are both having some romance spring up in their life.
Yeah, I wonder.
Is that awkward?
It seems like there's great potential for neither one of those to go anywhere, though.
You know, that would be really funny to have, like, the son be like, Dad, I want to introduce you to my girlfriend. And he's like, I want to introduce you to your potential new mom.
I don't know about funny.
Let's do a double date, son.
The dad and the son already have a strained relationship, so that would be...
So what could go wrong?
But he just left. Elendil just left. At the end, he was like on his horse going away from the city.
Yeah, so that relationship's probably not going to go anywhere. But it does pull the heartstrings a little.
But not all love stories, not all romance pieces are happy endings either.
That's true, especially not in Middle-earth. And finally, something else I thought was a little rotten were the unnecessary Lord of the Rings parallels. For me, it was a distraction from the story. I just noticed that they kept putting these things in to purposefully make this mirror Lord of the Rings, like Sauron's rising over here and the evil wizard's rising over there. And so a good wizard has to go off with 2 halflings. You know what I mean? Like, they set all these things up to mirror Lord of the Rings, and it just started to annoy me. And can I get on a little soapbox? Or can I stay on my soapbox for just a minute?
I was going to say, I think you're already there. No permission needed.
So, shout out to Star Wars Meg on YouTube, who I enjoy her Star Wars videos. She found a old clip of George Lucas, and he was talking about when he was making the prequels for Star Wars, and how it really made the executive business people really nervous because of how different they were from the original series, especially when he dropped the fact that he wanted to start Darth Vader's story when Darth Vader was like a little kid. And he basically just said that's the difference between business people and creators and storytellers, is he wanted to tell the story, and for him that story had to include the character's childhood because it mattered. And for him, it was about the story and not about pleasing a fan base or anything like that. And so when I see Rings of Power and them kind of bending all these really great stories to have purposeful parallels with Lord of the Rings, it just kind of annoys me because I don't feel like they need that.
Most likely they're trying to set it up for people who don't have the background knowledge of Lord of the Rings that you do.
I think it makes people feel comfortable. I think it makes people nostalgic, but it's not the same story. And I think a great story taking place in a shared world is enough.
that groove.
What was fresh in this season? We've already talked about a few things. You mentioned the pacing was really good overall.
Yeah, until the end. I thought the pacing was good. I think the storylines are getting more and more interesting, which is fun. It'll be interesting to see where they take Gandalf and the evil wizard. Okay, actually, going back to the rotten Grandalf.
Come on, man.
I mean, and my name is Gandalf, not Grandalf. Gandalf. I even would have been more okay with him leaving it at them just like calling him Grandalf and us understanding that eventually the name became Gandalf over time.
I thought the storyline in this season was great, and I really like how they portrayed Sauron manipulating Celebrimbor.
Oh, the manipulation and the deceit and the twisting, and they did a really good job with that where you're watching it and you're like, ooh. Of course, knowing the end, you know, but you can also see how well he twists things and just like turns it right back around, using their own insecurities, their own desires, their own ambitions against them.
There was that scene where Sauron had shot Celebrimbor full of arrows, and then he looks at him and says, "Look what you've done to yourself."
Yeah. But then Celebrimbor breaks free from that deceit and finds peace and sees the light and has freedom. And basically even is like, I feel so sorry for you because you're in such bondage.
And that was one of the most powerful moments. And that was really probably the climax of the season, is seeing him in his weakest physical state triumph spiritually over Sauron.
Yeah, both him and Galadriel kind of face the deceit and overcome it so they can expose the evil for what it is.
Church I used to work at did celebrate recovery, and I've got some family members who've gone through recovery, and one of the things that they are so that they emphasize so much is that the first step to recovery is recognizing your own struggle and admitting it. And it was so powerful to see Celebrimbor and Galadriel come face to face with their own inner darkness, and then really let the light in. You know, their renewed faith in goodness, the recognition of their own wrongs and the wrongs that were done to them, and being able to move past that. And you really saw a powerful personal transformation. And that's really the essence of faith in Christ, is that we recognize the darkness within. And sometimes we recognize the darkness that's happened to us as part of our story, but then we turn all that over to God, and we trust that His goodness and His light can bring a renewal and a transformation. In November, the 7th, 8th, and 9th, we'll be at Twin Cities Convention at the Minneapolis Convention Center. I'll be volunteering there as well as giving a talk on how to start a podcast. So would love to see you at the session, or would love just to say hi. And you can connect with us through our website, nerdyfolks.com. Email us at info@nerdyfolks.com. Until next time, love you. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.